Hi everyone. A very good morning to all of you. Today is 30th of April and in this session we are going to take discussion of entire Hindu newspaper. And now let's get started with the session. Also, I would like to tell you that you can download explainer notes of this session from Telegram channel. Link for Telegram is given in description box in YouTube. Now, let's get started. In every class we start with a GS quotation, and the idea of GS quotation is to give you some content that you can utilize in your essay paper or in your mains examination. So today we are going to take quotation from Gandhiji. So Gandhiji says that what we are doing to the forest of the world is but a mirror reflection of what we are doing to ourselves and to one another. So way we are treating environment, way we are treating ecology is a self harm that we are committing to the society as a whole. Why? Because the forests are crucial. They provide so much of ecological services, and these ecological services are important for the survival of humanity and society. So, therefore, destruction to the forest, deforestations that are going on, at the end of the day, they are going to haunt humans, they are going to impact humans only. You can use this particular idea with in your answers of GS paper number 3, environment and ecology. Fine. So that is about it. And let's get started. The first article that we have here is the poultry industry needs urgent reforms. Poultry industry needs urgent reforms. Now, this particular article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 3. GS paper number 3 are issues related to agriculture, animal husbandry. Fine, because poultry can also be seen as a sector aligned to this. Fine. Now, this particular article, guys, it is talking, first of all, when we talk about the context of this particular article. So, recently, there have been outbreak of H5N1. H5N1. Now, what is H5N1? H5N1 is bird flu. It is bird flu's strain. Now, recently what has happened? Recently what has happened, we find this particular thing that there is a spike in number of H5N1 cases. Now, H5N1 infection, okay, it has, just a minute. Yes. So H5N1 infection, it has split over humans in from the chickens in Hong Kong in 1997. Then in India, it has been spread in the recent years. For example, H5N1 was reported in Maharashtra in 2006 in a human. Then in 2020, there was outbreak. In 2021, there was outbreak. And according to WHO, this H5N1 also has a high fatality rate of 52%, 52%, which is scary, which is scary. So point is that when we talk about these particular kind of deadlier bird flu strains such as H5N1, we need to introspect, we need to investigate that is there a bigger crisis that is waiting to happen which will emerge from our poultry sector. Now this article analyzes in details the deeper concerns of poultry sector. So what are the issues in poultry sector? We are going to discuss it one by one, and all comprehensively we are going to discuss this particular article. Now, first of all, when we talk about H5N1 virus, okay, it has shown high fatality rate. Already we have seen 52% is the fatality rate, and also it has ability to spread fast across different species and continent. So you have seen that from Hong Kong, how swiftly it entered to India. So point is that this holds all the features of a potential pandemic. It holds all the features of potential pandemic. So we need to understand that how poultries are needed to be reformed. So unsanitary conditions that are there in many of the poultry farms, they contribute to such kind of a diseases. So first of all, there need to be sanitary audit. There needed to be sanitary audit of all the poultry farms so that these kind of viruses, they don't spread through contact, they don't become infectious catastrophes here. So this is one issue. The next issue, guys, that comes here is that poultry sector also has high environmental and health impact because of it being a polluter. It leads to odorous emissions, it leads to bad odor. Also, it generates a lot of waste which is not disposed properly, and then it affects air Also it affects the water quality and soil health. So therefore, poultry sector, it is also leading to environmental degradation. Then the third challenge that we have with respect to the poultry sector is is its role in antibiotic resistance. Its role in antibiotic resistance. Now, guys, understand this particular thing that according to WHO, antimicrobial resistance is the biggest challenge that the world is facing right now. Now, first of all, what is this antimicrobial resistance? So, basically, uh, antimicrobial drugs are given to fight with, for example, bacterial infection, fungal infection. Fine, antimicrobial drugs are given. Now, sometimes what happens, these microbes, for example, let's say bacteria becomes resistant to antibiotic drug. Okay, and then what happens, it takes a longer time to treat common infections. Sometimes treating common infection becomes very much difficult, and even common infections, they take lives. So this antibacterial resistance is going to be a very big challenge. It is going to be a very big challenge. Now, in poultry, what happens, there is indiscriminate antibiotics that are used. Now, why antibiotics are used in poultry sector? So these chicken, they are given antibiotics, so they gain weight. Okay, and so therefore commercial interest is linked. But what happens when you consume such poultry products through the principle of biomagnification? Through the principle of biomagnification, what happened? We are also ingesting these antibiotics, and from here, antibiotic resistance in human is developing. So this is again a very big challenge. Then the next challenge that comes here is that conditions of many of the poultry farms, fine, in India and even in other countries, it is very bad, and often they violate the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act 1960's provision because of the intensive confinement. So you might have seen that in a very small chamber, how they are stuffed. So this leads to the poor treatment of animal, and also it is a violation of the PECA, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. So these are largely the challenges that we have with respect to poultry sector. Now, way forward and suggestions which can be given in this particular direction is this. Number one, what we need to do? We need to strengthen legal framework related to poultry in India. Now, 269th Law Commission of India, it advocates for improved living condition for poultry. It also talks about the reduction in antibiotics, and there is a need to enhance the quality of poultry products. So now the time has come that we need to issue revised regulation with respect to poultry sector. And in this capacity, what is to be done? Ministry of agriculture needs to come out with detailed reforms. Fine. So basically what we need to also revisit draft rules for the egg industry which were released by the Ministry of Agriculture. And this time we need to ensure this particular thing, that these draft rules for egg industry, they should be robust. They should contain stringent provisions with respect to maintenance of sanitary condition, with respect to ensuring that antibiotic are not used. So we need to reform such laws, and even more comprehensive laws are also needed. The next thing that comes here is that we also need to adopt one health principle, in letter as well as spirit. So principle of one health advocates this. See, one health principle advocates that the health of health of three components will go hand in hand. Now see this particular thing. See, this is health of human, this is health of animals, this is health of environment. Now you cannot just take one and can take care of it. Fine. In between here, we have the concept of one health. What it means? It means that the health of every component is related to each other. If one will not be healthy, other cannot be healthy. So if humans have to be kept healthy, we need to ensure that animals are healthy. We need to ensure environment is healthy. Only when these two are healthy, humans' health will follow. So no of the component can function in silo. So therefore, one health principle advocates taking the health of animal, public health, ecosystem simultaneously. Now, in this particular capacity, what happened? Government has also announced that they will come out with the Institute of One Health. They'll also come out with the Institute of One Health. But up till now, much things have not happened in this particular direction. So immediately, One Health principle is to be adopted, and work should be started on One Health principle. Then next thing that is needed here is that local communities, industry stakeholders, fine, they are needed to see, first of all, they are needed to be engaged. After engagement, they are needed to be educated. After education, fine, after education, we can expect that the condition of poultry sector can be improved. So you involve local communities, industry stakeholders, and use them in monitoring and enforcement. Fine. So this is something that is to be taken up. Fine. I hope you've understood it. And now we'll move to next article. Okay. So we have this article here. Courts nudge on hospital charges, a reform opportunity. Fine. Now, basically, before going in this article, where this article is going to be important, this article will be important in GS paper number 2, issues related to health sector. Issues related to health sector. Now, guys, when we understand about the health, understand this thing that in health sector, we see that there is a lot of dominance of private sector. There is a lot of dominance of private sector. Now, first of all, as we talk about the health infrastructure, so around 80% of hospital beds, around 80% of the hospital beds, they are in private establishments. Okay. Private sector plays a very important role in health, which actually doesn't make sense in case of India. Why it doesn't make sense in the case of India? Because when we talk about the data from United Nation plus our world in data report, so they provide this particular thing that out of pocket expenditure in India, it stands around 56 to 58%. Now, what is out of pocket expenditure? Out of pocket expenditure refers to that expenditure on healthcare for which disposable money was not there. People arranged money by borrowing, by selling some asset, by selling their gold, etc. For example, what does it means in simple terms? If 100 rupees are being spent on health, out of 100 rupees, how much money was spent on health, but people did not had money for that? Okay, 56% means 56 rupees which are being spent on health, people have to borrow, people have to sell their asset. Now, in this capacity, private sector having so much of having so having have, having so big private sector doesn't make sense for India. But because historically government has not given adequate attention on healthcare, private sector has mushroomed in this particular gap. Now, if we talk about government expenditure on health, it has been very low. For example, for example, 1.6 to 1.8% we spend on health. National Health Policy of 2017 suggested that at least 2.5% is to be spent on health. But up till now, this target has not been achieved. And in the range of 1.6 to 1.8% of our GDP equivalent, we are spending on health. So when there will be so less allocations, private sector has to mushroom, private sector will take the advantage of gap. Now, this is first of all basic understanding that you need to have here, as it is not given in this particular article. Now, moving on. So this particular article talks about a Supreme Court nudge. The Supreme Court has directed the central government to regulate rates of hospital procedures in private sector. Now, basically, this is a very big concern in private sector that differential rates, differential charges are collected. Now, for example, just I'm giving you one example. Suppose a person has to undergo a surgery in a hospital. Now, in this particular hospital, there are different room options that are there. For example, there is one general ward option. Then there is one normal room, which will be, let's say, shared by three people. Then there is, let's say, deluxe room, which will be shared by two people. And then there is, let's say, super deluxe room, which will have single occupancy, So these are the accommodation room options that you have in a hospital. Now, Room rent will be different. Room rent will be different. Okay, tariff will be different. Tariff will be different. That is acceptable. But depending on the room, everything disproportionately increases. So, surgery that might be chargeable at 50,000 rupees in general ward might go up to 2 to 3 lakh rupees in deluxe or semi deluxe room. Even the charges that doctor visitation charges, they go disproportionately depending on the type of room. Now, it doesn't make sense. Why? Because these procedures, that surgery, doctor visitation charges, should be uniform irrespective of this type of a room. So point is that there is a huge disparity, there is a huge opaqueness, no sense of transparency in the way private hospitals collect their charges. Moreover, depending on economic profile of a person, different charges can be imposed on them. Different charges can be imposed on them. So therefore, Supreme Court has asked that central government should regulate the rates that hospital charge for their procedures. And in this capacity, a public interest litigation PIL was filed, which says that there is a huge discrepancy in procedure cost. And when we talk about when we compare it with the public sector, this discrepancies is even huge. Fine. Now, the point is that this is a very big challenge of India's healthcare sector. Now, first of all, when we talk about these kind of issues, so market-driven pricing in health sector. So basically, there is a problem in the market-driven pricing in health sector, and why this particular problem lies. This problem lies because of non-implementation of Clinical Establishments Act. Clinical Establishments Act. Now, Clinical Establishment Act in 2007, they were issued, and they aimed to regulate private sector in terms of the practices, in terms of pricing, etc. But up till now, this Clinical Establishment Act has not been implemented properly. Because of that, this is leading to all of these particular challenges. Moreover, understand this particular thing, that there are other challenges also. For example, patient demographics are often different. Okay, on whose basis hospitals charge money, and we don't have any rule to regulate it. Then unreliable price data is there. Fine. Fragmented regulatory framework is there in India. Fine. So therefore, certain suggestions, certain way forwards can be given in this particular direction. Now, number one, we need to come out with benchmarking and standard treatment guidelines. Okay, that is STG. So what we need to come out with? We need to come out with benchmarking and standard treatment guidelines. So basically, for every type of procedure, there needs to be a standard rate guideline that is to be issued. That is to be issued. Fine, which should not be flouted. And at the same time, there should be a mechanism, grievance redressal mechanism. If hospital deviates from these standard charges, patients should be able to reach this grievance redressal mechanism, and this grievance redressal mechanism should at the same time not be a toothless body. Fine. So this is something that is to be done. This approach will support more rational and transparent pricing mechanism. The next thing that is to be done is that we also need to strengthen the regulatory capacity. Regulatory capacity. So therefore, first of all, what is needed to be done? Full adoption of Clinical Establishment Act is to be done, and we need to have a robust and empowered regulator. We need to have a robust and empowered regulator under Clinical Establishment Act. Then next is that public private sector collaboration is also needed. Now see this thing. Private sector often, the money that it charges for the treatment, it becomes a concern. At the same time, public sector cannot take over the entire health because of the low budget allocations that is given. So what we need in this particular capacity, we need a collaboration between public and private sector. And here what we need to do, so basically, government and private sector, they need to negotiate. They need to negotiate the pricing of different. They need to negotiate that how much money they're going to charge for procedures, which will include input cost, reasonable margins. Now, private sector works for profit, And you need to keep it in mind that if private sector will not be given the avenue for profit generation, they might altogether not invest in the health infrastructure, which is going to be an even bigger problem. So private sector should be allowed to take reasonable margins, but these reasonable margins should not be so high that they become unjustified. So in this capacity, public and private sector needs to collaborate, need to negotiate these particular charges, and also government need to support the private sector if it needed through subsidies, so that out of pocket expenditure, ultimately money that is being charged by patients, it can be reduced. Fine. So this is something that's to be done. And then after that, we need to come out with a comprehensive health financing reform. So basically, what is to be done? What is to be done? We need to create robust healthcare financing models by which government, for example, here there is one case study, Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. Now, what is Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana? Under this particular scheme, 5 lakh rupees of health assurance is to be provided to every family. And there is the list of treatment that's provided, which will be covered under Pradhan Mantri Jan Arogya Yojana. A person can even go to a private hospital. A person can even go to the private hospitals and can take these particular procedures. What government will do? Government will reimburse money. Government will reimburse money to the hospital. So this is a co-financing by government that government has done. Now, on the same lines, even for diagnostics, we need to come out with a scheme, because these tests such as the MRIs, CT scans, they become very expensive, though in many of the government hospitals, they are done free of cost. But problem is that slot availability is a concern. For example, in Delhi, it takes 1 to 2 years to get an appointment for an MRI in government hospital. So we need to come out with the diagnostic related groups also such kind of a scheme which can help the patients and can reduce their out of pocket expenditure. Okay, this is all about this article. Now moving on, and here we have next article, that is the paradox of thrift. Does a rise in saving cause a fall in investment? Now this article we are going to see with respect to prelims examination. Also we are going to see this with respect to the GS paper number 3, issues related to economy. So the issue that comes here is that there is this paradox of saving. Now it is also referred by the other name such as the paradox of thrift. Now what does this paradox of savings or paradox of thrift means? So this theory provides, now see, households, they have a particular income. Now in income, certain proportion they are going to spend, and certain proportion they are going to save. Now, if savings, it has been said that if savings go beyond a particular level, then at the end of the day, at the national level, savings will come down. At the national level, savings will come down. Fine. So what it says that rise in the saving rate of individual can cause a fall rather than rise in the overall saving in economy. Okay. Now, you might think that how that is possible. If people are saving more, then the national savings should go up. Fine, but why it is going down? So paradox of saving says that no, such savings will go down. Fine. What they say? Now, first of all, this particular concept, that is the paradox of thrift, you saving more, but the national savings goes down, going down. This concept was popularized by the British economist J.M. Keynes in his book, The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. Now, Keynes and economists who follow Keynes, they provide this particular thing that saving more money is bad for the wider economy. They say that, see, when you are saving more, when you save more, it means that you are consuming less. You are consuming less because from your income, from your income, if you have to save more, obviously you have to cut down on your expenditures. Fine. Now, when people will cut down the expenditures, what will happen? What will happen? It will, a minute, it will be a negative impression for capitalist. It will be negative impression for capitalist. Now understand this particular thing, that if everybody will cut down on their expenditure, then aggregate demand in economy will come down. Aggregate demand in economy will come down. And demand will, now supply always tries to match the demand. Supply always tries to match the demand. And if aggregate demand has come down, then supply will also come down. Now who is supplying? These goods and services are being supplied by the capitalist. Now capitalist Capitalist starts a particular venture, okay, hires people, and with the help of these people, he makes goods and services and then supplies those goods and services to people. But obviously, if people are not spending more, aggregate demand is less, then supply will be cut down. And for cutting down the supply, what will happen? Capitalist has to fire people. Capitalist has to fire people. Capital will not invest in new plant and machinery. Capitalist will not generate new employment, and if new employment will not be generated, what will happen? People will be jobless, and the ones who are jobless, neither they'll save nor they'll spend. That will further lead to a vicious circle. So Keynesian economists, they say that higher saving is bad for wider economy. Fine. They say they argue that savings are invested by capitalists with the ultimate aim of selling their output in the form of final goods and service. Fine. But if the consumer fail to spend enough money, the output that capitalists bring to the market, it will cause losses to the capitalist, and capitalist will not carry any new investment. With they'll not expand their factories, they'll not invest in plant and machinery, they'll not hire more people, and at the end of the day, what will happen? At the end of the day, what will happen? There will be joblessness that will come in society. Okay, so this is something that is there. Also, it is said that today the fluctuations in consumer spending, sometimes this consumer spend less. For example, during COVID-19, their spending was less. So this is the primary reason behind business cycle. Now, what is business cycle? Business cycle is an idea that the business, see, does not grows like this. Okay, business goes in cycles. There will be the period of slump, then there will be boom, then again there will be recession, then there will be depression, then there will be recovery, then there will be boom. Okay, so business cycles, why these business cycles happen? Why a business? Now see, if business is, let's say, going up, it will not go like this, it will go like this. Why? It is because from time to time, consumer spending patterns, they change. Consumers start saving more. So this is the reason. And it has been said that whenever consumers are spending less, government need to come in between, and government needs to take measures to increase government spending. Either government should spend more, or government should put money in the hand of consumer so that the consumer spends more. Because of this particular reason, when there is an economic crisis going on, what government comes? Government comes with fiscal stimulus. Government comes with fiscal stimulus. Tax breaks are given to people so that people spend more money. This is something that's there. But on the other hand, there is also criticism of this. There is a counter idea is also that's there. So critics, what they say, critics argue that the saving more is not bad for economy, and it has been said that if consumers are spending more, it will not lead to a cause in the fall in investment. Fine. It has been said. It has been said that, see, a rise in saving can cause a increase in entrepreneurial demand. But see, critics what they say, they say this particular thing, that if there is drop in expenditure, if there is a drop in expenditure, it will send a signal to capitalist. It will send a signal to capitalist that people are not interested in the products and services that are being offered right now. Okay, suppose capitalist is supplying certain goods and services, but people are not buying it. So capitalist, what he will get an idea, he will get that these products and services are not appealing, and capitalist might invest in businesses, in goods and services for future. Fine, which will appeal the customer tomorrow, which will appeal the customer tomorrow. So what happen when people spend less on consumer goods and save more? It will cause capitalists to invest a greater amount of available saving to satisfy consumer demand in the more distant future, and therefore capitalists will spend more in R&D. Capital will spend in better products, better services. So at the end of the day, it will not make that a big impact. Fine. Now, no theory is 100% true, no theory is 100% false. So there are justifications and counter justifications for both of the theories that we have. Then moving on, China all set to launch a mission to far side of moon. Okay, now before going in this particular article, guys, understand there is a concept of intertidal locking. Intertidal locking. Now see this particular thing. When we talk about moon, so rotates moon rotates on its axis, or fine, moon rotates as well as revolves, as well as revolves. Okay, moon is rotating as well as revolving. Now understand this thing that moon's rotation and revolution, okay, revolution around the earth, they are synchronized. They are synchronized. Fine. Because of this, what happens? We always see only one side of the moon. From the earth, only one side of the moon is visible. Why? Because the rotation and revolution of moon has been synchronized with each other. So therefore, we see always one side of the moon. Now there is far side of moon, that is the other side of moon which is not visible from earth. Far side of moon which is not visible from earth. And now many different countries are exploring far side of moon. So recently Chandrayaan 3 that made a successful landing on moon, it also explored the far side of the moon, that is the southern pole of the moon. It tried to explore. Now what is happening? China is planning to launch their Chang'e 6 lunar probe. Chang'e 6 lunar probe, fine, fine, and the Long March 5 Y8 carrier rocket. Okay, so Long March 5 Y8 carrier rocket will be used, and Chang'e 6 lunar probe they are going to launch. Now understand this thing that basically China is taking a series of mission. Now see, as in India, we have Chandrayaan. As in India, we have Chandrayaan to explore moon. Same way, China has the series of operation by the name of Chang'e. The first Chang'e mission was taken in 2007, and since then, a lot of leaps China has made. Now, first of all, when we talk about China's achievements in 2020, China brought back samples from the moon, fine, from the near side. So what happened? China brought back the samples from the moon. And in last 40 decades, China is the one to do this particular thing. Okay, so this is something that is there. Now see, point is that if you have brought back anything from the space and particularly to the moon, it shows the possibility of re-entry. It shows the possibility of re-entry. And this re-entry has opened the door for sending uncrewed, it has opened the door, it has opened the door for the manned missions also. Fine. Then next, now China is expected to launch Chang'e 6. Now Chang'e 6 using the backup spacecraft from 2020 mission. So the spacecraft of 2020 mission will be used here, and what it will do, what it will do now, uh, just a minute. Yes. So China, it is expected to launch Chang'e 6 mission, and they are going to use the backup spacecraft from 2020 mission. Now, this time, what they are planning? This time they are planning to go to the far side of moon. This time they are going to go towards the far side of moon. And this far side of moon, as I told you, it is not in the direct line of sight from the earth. So therefore, China will rely on their recently deployed relay satellite to coordinate as well as to manage this entire mission. To manage this entire mission. And this same satellite they are also going to use in the next, that is Chang'e 7 and Chang'e 8 mission in 26-28. Fine. Why? Because what the China plans in this Chang'e 6 and Chang'e 8? So China is planning to build an outpost on moon. It is planning to build an outpost on moon with Russia. Now China says that this outpost will be utilized when China will send its astronauts on moon by 2030. So what is the grand plan of China? Grand plan of China is to send astronauts on moon by 2030, and for that they'll build an outpost on moon through this Chang'e 7 and Chang'e 8, okay, which will be launched in 2006 and 2028. Now, basically US, NASA, they are worried. US and the NASA, they are worried by Beijing's such kind of a plan. Moreover, also they say this particular thing that the Beijing, they wants to claim the water resources on moon as their own. They want to claim water resources on their moon as their own. This is something that has happened, but China says that no, we don't have any such kind of a plan. They have rebuffed all these claims. Also, this Chang'e 6, it will carry payloads from France, Italy, Sweden, Pakistan. Fine. And on Chang'e 7, payloads from Russia, Switzerland, and Thailand will be taken. Now, NASA has been banned by US from any collaboration with China. Okay, and US, they are having their separate program, that is Artemis program. Artemis program. Under this Artemis program, US is collaborating with India also. Fine. Now, under the Artemis program that US is leading for the moon, US astronauts will land on South Pole by 26 by 26. Fine. So this is something that is there. Also, Chang'e 6, it will attempt to land on the northeastern sides of South Pole, that is the Aitken Basin. Aitken Basin. Now this South Pole Aitken Basin, it is known as the oldest impact site of crater in the solar system, and by that a lot of information about the formation of universe, etc., can be taken. Moreover, one more thing is that, guys, southernmost landing on moon was carried out recently by US, that is Intuitive Machines and NASA. Intuitive Machines and NASA, they have carried the southernmost landing on moon already. Moreover, this South Pole where they are trying to land, this area is referred to as Golden Belt area. Golden Belt area for lunar exploration. Polar ice that is found here, it carry a lot of resources which can sustain exploration on moon, which can sustain base on moon. So that is something which is to be seen here. Okay, that is all about it. Now moving to next article. Warming of Indian oceans to accelerate. Warming of Indian ocean set to accelerate. Now this article we are going to see with respect to prelims examination as well as with respect to GS paper number 3, environment. Okay, so what has happened? So a study has been released by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. Now in this particular study, what they have done, they have analyzed the data from 1950 to 2020. And on the basis of this particular data, they say Indian Ocean has already become warmer by 1.2 degrees Celsius. And if the business as usual approach will continue, then Indian Ocean will further heat up by 1.7 degrees Celsius, fine, to 3.8 degrees Celsius till 2100. And as we have land heat waves, as we have land-based heat waves, marine heat waves are becoming a problem in sea. And these marine heat waves, what it leads to, it will drive rapid formation of cyclones. Okay, so you already might be knowing that the cyclone formation depends on the temperature at the sea level. So rapid cyclones will be driven, and basically we'll find this particular thing that there will be the tenfold increase in such kind of heat and cyclonic activity. Now it's being provided that there's a near permanent heat wave state that is now developing in Indian Ocean. And this permanent heat wave, it will have far more consequences. For example, it will lead to coral bleaching, where corals lose their colors, seagrass destruction, loss of kelp forest. Fine, it will affect the fishery sector, livelihood concerns will come. Then also it is being provided that this surface, that the heating of ocean, it is not restricted just to surface, but overall heat content of ocean is increasing. And it is being provided that the ocean is getting heated at the rate of 4.5 zetajoules per decade. Okay, now joule is a unit of energy, and 1 zetajoule is equal to 1 billion trillion joules. Now if just I put this thing in the context, if you uh, so basically it has been provided. So just to put this particular thing in context, it means it is comparable to adding energy equivalent to energy equivalent to one Hiroshima atomic bomb detonation every second. So the heat that is being added is similar to energy that was generated by Hiroshima bomb every second. One Hiroshima bomb is getting detonated and it is adding heat. This is so much of the heat that is getting added. Now this rising heat will lead to rising sea level. Okay, moreover, when water gets heated up, it expands also, volume of water increases. It's called as the thermal expansion. So all these particular problems will further drive, will further ripple and leads to a lot of problematic events. Moving on, rising of share of personal income tax and indirect taxes concern. Now guys, here we have data point report, and here we have some datas with respect to the rising income tax rates. Now, first of all, when we note from 2001 till 23-24, we find this particular thing that the corporate tax has come down, but personal income tax has steadily increased. And now if we see, okay, in gross tax revenue, now this is the gross tax revenue. In gross tax revenue, personal income tax is 28% and the corporate tax is 26%. So corporate tax has went down because of the deep corporate tax breaks that have been given by government. So important data, you should know it. Then also we find this thing that indirect taxes have come down and direct taxes have increased. So then again, when we talk about the tax revenue, So indirect taxes contribute 65.8% of revenue and direct tax cost 34.2%. Now, if direct taxes are increasing, it is said that okay, it is a sign of a progressive taxation system. Why? Because direct tax are imposed on your income. Indirect taxes are often imposed on goods. Now see, certain goods, fine, for example, a biscuit, milk, they are consumed by everyone. So certain type of goods are consumed by everyone. So if indirect taxes are increasing, means even Mr. Ambani and a rickshaw puller are paying same tax. So indirect taxes should be less, direct tax should be more. This is a progressive thing that's happening. Then also we see this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the personal income tax rate, fine, India has one of the highest personal income tax collection rate, fine, at around 42.7%. So these are some of the things that could be noted and can be written in your answers. So this is, guys, all about it. And with this, we come to an end to the session. Now we'll be meeting tomorrow. Till then, take care of yourselves, guys, and please do like the video if you have liked it. Thank you so much.